All right, man. Torture talk. Hey, how y'all doing? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. How y'all doing? Hope everybody's good. All right, man. So today's episode, I want to check in with this guy. I usually disagree with him on a lot of his takes when it comes to certain things. I agree with him on a lot of his takes when it comes to certain things, also. But sometimes I think this guy and this other guy, they be a little obnoxious about how they go about things and I don't know. Sometimes I feel like these dudes be acting as if they're like holier than thou. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense in their critiques of artists in how they go about it. So before we get into that, I got to get a legendary spill. This is Torture Talk. If you like the content, please consider subscribing. If you're new here, let me work for your subscription today. All the beautiful, single, sexy ladies, put one in the chat. All the fellas, y'all know where to find the ones at. Just don't harass them. I don't sell no merch, but I do have content absolutely free. But if you want to leave a donation, link is in the description or right here on the screen, Cash App. No one PayPal, they call me the Hidden Gem. 1,300 subscribers, over 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18,000. And yes, I am the King of the North. Let me know what kingdom you are from. So, also, too, Night King in the building. Make sure you subscribe to Talk After Hours. All right, so let's get to it, man. So, this episode basically is about, before we even transition over, um, old heads in hip hop and what's going on with that. So, we're going to talk about it, and I got a lot to say. So, let's get it going. All right, so I'm sure everybody know who this guy is. You know what I'm saying? He does a lot of good videos. He does documentary type style videos, 3 hours long, stuff like that. I think I did one of his videos where it was an hour and something long. But then his other guy, I don't know if that's his friend or his partner in crime or whatever, or maybe just his partner, or maybe just some guy that he knows. Little Bill, he's another one that I don't know. Sometimes I don't agree with their takes. Sometimes I do. And yeah. So we're gonna see what he talking about on this one, and let's check it out.
A few weeks ago, the Clips released their fifth studio album, Let God Sort 'Em Out, and their first album in nearly 15 years to critical and commercial acclaim. And after a week or two of discourse, I made a video about how I had mixed feelings about the fact that arguably the most critically acclaimed, attention-grabbing rap album of the year was made by two men older than me. That video never made it to YouTube. And it didn't make it for mostly good.
Okay, so I'm gonna let him say why that is, but matter of fact, you know what? I'm gonna let him say why, and then I'm gonna give my commentary.
Reasons. A lot of what I had to say in this video, I'm going to low-key repeat in this one. But right after that video was finished, I saw a video from my problematic nephew, Dom, where he continued his smoke demon phase toward the generation before him, agreeing with my overall opinion, but also adding some things to the story that I knew I wanted to touch on, and I didn't know if I touched on perfectly. Before I could add anything to the video, I ended up taking a trip to LA for some business and ended up connecting with who I would say is the godfather of modern hip hop journalism and content creation, the Company Man. And my conversation with him really helped me see that my initial take was inadequate. So the following is a result of my thoughts influenced by two, what I would say, powerful voices in hip hop criticism from relatively opposing sides from the generational and artistic divide. And using those angles, I want to discuss why I think we're at a pivotal crossroads for hip hop and music culture in general. So let's talk about Let God Sort 'Em Out and why.
I don't believe we had a pivotal moment or crossroads in hip hop. I think this is just how it was intended to be. I think a lot of y'all uh, want hip hop to be the way y'all want it to be, but music is subjective, and hip hop has become so globally big that the way y'all perceive hip hop is not the way other people perceive hip hop. So I understand what he's saying, but at the same time, I don't think that a lot of these guys who that does content like him a little bit more deeper, a deeper dive into the psyche of rappers or the psyche of just the hip hop genre in general. I don't think that they take a lot of stuff into consideration. I think they write off a lot of things and push things to the side as if it doesn't matter. And there's one key element that I think that they always leave out, but then it's crazy how they, in my opinion, it seems like they always leave it out, but then they champion it in a way. And I'll explain it a little further into the video. So let's keep going.
That album is so interesting, but also alarming. Hip hop has always been an art form that reflected the energy and attitudes of America's and eventually the world's young people. In fact, I remember vividly as a teenager joking with my friends about how weird it was gonna be when someone like Snoop Dogg got old and was still trying to rap. And mind you,
I disagree with that. I think that when we were growing up, we thought that hip hop was always going to be a young man's game. The thing about music, and I'm gonna say this, music is not a young man's game. You start getting good when you're older. You're good in the beginning, don't get me wrong. Some people say you're always good in the beginning. But if you stick to it, musicians usually get better as they get older. Some people say they get worse. I believe they get better as they get older if you are 100% within your craft. There's a lot of reasons why he feels the way he feels. And I'm going to tell y'all why. But I'm going to see what he has to say about this guy here.
In fact, I remember vividly as a teenager joking with my friends about how weird it was gonna be when someone like Snoop Dogg got old and was still trying to rap. And mind you, old rappers are definitely doing weird shit right now, but it's not necessarily the music that's
Again, this is why I said we should remove politics from hip hop. I don't think that rappers should be taking pictures with presidents and none of that. That's just my opinion, but carry on.
In fact, the last half decade has proven that old rappers can actually still provide the genre with amazing work. Nas went on a generational run coming out of COVID that rivals anything he's ever done as an artist. Jay Electronica oddly gave the world his first album in his early 40s after over a decade of waiting. Artists like A$AP Rock, Billy Woods, and even Killer Mike have all given the world numerous excellent projects in the last few years, while all in their mid to late 40s. And of course, probably the first to show that this was possible was Jay-Z back in 2017 at 444 when he was 48 years old. Now, one difference is the fact that unlike a lot of other old rappers, the Clips are still rapping about selling drugs, being rich, and killing people, and I love it. We all loved it. It's great.
And that goes back to what I said earlier about you got to pay attention to how what these dudes say, because they'll say that they love it, but that's basically a backhanded compliment. Like if you love it, you wouldn't have to point that out. That's number one. Number two, I disagree with that's all they talk about on their album. That's not all they talk about on their album. And on top of that, it's put in bar form. It's not just them doing drill rap. You know what I'm saying? And I know that's not his point. I know that's not the point he's making. I understand the point he's making. But what I'm saying is, for you to point that out, I think that it was just I think it was kind of a backhanded compliment in my opinion.
If you think about it, it's no more relatable to a person like me when I was younger than it is when I'm older. So it's just good, fun entertainment. But also in between those drug bars, we get amazing moments about aging with hip hop and in the spotlight, gaining perspective through experience, losing parents. All this to say, as much as I love him, Andre 3000, you are wrong. There is a lot of room for older people in hip hop. Teray, another hip hop journalism elder, said as much a while back. However,
All right, so what is your argument then? Because like sometimes I feel like these dudes they just talk. You know what I'm saying? They lead you in one direction with their argument, and it turns out that's not how they really even feel. It's kind of like clickbaity. You know what I'm saying, in a way. And I'm not saying that that's all he talks about and he's a clickbaity, but sometimes I feel like this is what they do. So what is your argument? Is your argument that the hip hop artists are too old to be making music? Because when you was growing up, you said that it would be weird to see Snoop Dogg What is your argument? I need to understand. Maybe he's going to explain. Maybe he's going to explain. So let's go.
Still have concerns when I see the rollout and reception for Let God Sort 'Em Out, not in terms of its success, but in terms of galvanizing the culture, drawing attention, and driving trends and conversations, being a moment in hip hop in a way that I don't know if it's happened enough in the last decade or so. Because while I think there's plenty of room for older rappers in hip hop, any genre of art that is dominated by people in their 40s going into their 50s, especially a genre that used to be driven by younger people. The aforementioned Nas, for example, was 19 when he made Illmatic, and the aforementioned Andre 3000 along with Big Boy, they were both 19 when Outkast released Southern Playlist of Cadillac Funky Music.
Okay, so I understand exactly what he's saying now. And I'm going to explain to what he's missing, right? This is what I think that a lot of hip hop historians, I'm not saying he is that, but I'm just saying a lot of hip hop historians, people missing. Music, right? Let's just explain how. I'm going to use rock as an example. Rock music, right? Rock music used to be a young man's game, right? You know who's more celebrated now in rock music? All the old bands. This is what hip hop has turned into. Hip hop has turned into a celebration for all of the old rappers. Because the old rappers provided something that the new rappers hasn't. All of the new bands, they're good, but they don't provide something that the old bands provided. That's why you see everybody's still talking about the Rolling Stones. Everybody's still talking about Led Zeppelin. Everybody's still talking about the Beatles. Everybody's still talking about Queen. All of these older bands. That's what it is. Hip hop has transitioned into that course, in my opinion. I believe hip hop has become old. And a lot of y'all don't want to admit this, but every rapper that's on top is older. They're all older. Every one of them. They all over 40 or over almost 40 years old. And you can't tell me that, because if you're saying it's a young man sport, if you're over 30, you're older. You're not young anymore. If you're 35 and up, you're not young. I believe Kendrick Lamar is 38. J. Cole is 40. Drake is 39. You know what I'm saying? And these are the biggest artists right now. These are the biggest rappers in the world. So I get what he's saying, but at the same time, I think they deliberately ignore certain things. And you're ignoring that hip hop has the genre, not the rappers around it. The genre has grew up. It's grown. All of the people, most of the people that carried hip hop and did hip hop and beloved hip hop was our age. We're still here. All of the new people are just here for microwave music. That's not going to do anything because they're all TikTok brain people. Not all of them, but a good portion of them are TikTok brain. They like music right now. You know what I'm saying? That's it. It's the same thing that's happening with these new bands, the rock bands. But you got to understand, even you, me, and everybody else, we have grown up. This is the reason why Jay-Z, Nas, all of these rappers, if Biggie was still alive, he'd still be around. Tupac still be around. All of these people, they're old. Eminem, they're old because their fans have grown up. Hip hop has grown up. It's not a young man's sport anymore. And it probably never will ever be a young man's sport. Because the main people who carried it are older. Simple as that.
The only people really engaged with hip hop culture as a music culture and not a drama culture, and we'll get to that later, if those people are all pushing 40 and older, that means hip hop is dying, or at least that it's not in a healthy place. As much as I love,
that does not mean hip hop is dying. No, rock music is not dead. It's not dead. Rock music is not dead. It doesn't mean hip hop is dying. I totally disagree with that. No, I believe that hip hop is going to become a genre that is not just for young people, or it's going to mostly be for older people. Because let's be clear here, right? and we could talk about Drake, we could talk about Cole. I was gonna be honest with y'all. Kendrick, Drake, Cole, and a lot of other artists. Let's just say a lot of other artists, right? They're not seen as rappers anymore. They're seen as musicians. I want y'all to understand something. Hip hop is about to become all about musicians now that rap. That's what it's going to become. All of these people are going to be doing multiple things, not just rapping. Some of them going to be doing beats, some of them and that happened before too, don't get me wrong. But I believe that most of these artists are going to become musicians now, not just rappers. And I think that's where rap is going. And I think that he's missing that point when he says that it's dying. I don't believe hip hop is dying. If you saying that it's dying because the young people are not doing it, and it's a reason why that is, and I'm gonna explain why the older crowd is doing this. It's a big reason why that he's probably not going to mention.
Kendrick Lamar's current reign of dominance, I don't know if there's ever been a time where the biggest star in hip hop has been in their late 30s. Drake's most dominant run in the 2010s, he was in his mid-20s. Kanye and Wayne before him were in their mid and late 20s. Jay-Z was maybe the first to do this in his 30s in the late 90s during his most dominant run, but he had been around since his mid-20s. And before that, Biggie, Tupac, Lauryn Hill, Missy Elliott, Run DMC, LL Cool J, and so on. These were all very young men and women becoming superstars and affecting significant change and impact on hip-hop culture, making iconic.
But see, that sound good. But you're missing the point. The reason why most of those artists is because that was when hip hop was in its younger stage mostly. You know what I'm saying? Again, we were all young. It wasn't like, oh man, like these guys are doing it because they're young. No, we all were young. It was in its infant stage. It's in its adult stage now, if that makes sense. Hip hop is in its adult stage. And if you want to say hip hop is dying because adults die, okay, I'll give you that one. But at the same time, like, bro, come on now.
And so on. These were all very young men and women becoming superstars and affecting significant change and impact on hip hop culture, making iconic work at that time. It's not that it's not happening now, it's that the way it's happening is not where it needs to be. Now, I want to be clear that I'm
right there. There it goes right there. There it goes right there. I was waiting for that. This is what I'm talking about. When you have people like this is the reason why hip hop, we keep people around for so long, like Jay-Z, Nas, and all these people. Because you have people like him and people like a couple of other people who literally gatekeep how they believe hip hop should be. When he just said right there proves my point that this is what they do. And this is the reason why you get people like Kendrick, you get people like Cole, people like Drake, Nas, all of these older guys still making music and still pushing the genre forward. Because you don't believe that a lot of these young dudes, like a Jid and a couple of other people that's coming up, you don't believe that they could be classified or even put in the category as Tupac because they haven't done a lot of the revolutionary work that you're talking about. See, this is the reason why I say we should separate the two. Because people like Jid, he's a phenomenal artist, right? But should we say because he didn't do anything that was against the government that he should be put in the same class as these other artists, even though he's a phenomenal artist? But see, this is what they do. They push for that. I'll give you another example. Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali is considered the greatest boxer of all time. But when you ask people why is he considered the greatest boxer of all time, because he has about 5 losses, I believe. They say because of what he done outside of the ring. This is what I'm saying. So they will always deem Muhammad Ali as the greatest boxer of all time. not over boxing, because you can't put him over Floyd Mayweather. If you're saying they're going off of wins and losses, there's a bunch of people that doesn't have losses too, by the way. But you can't put him over him. But the reason why they say is because what he did outside the ring. This is what they're doing when it comes to hip hop artists, and this is why people like Jid, people like Kendrick, people like Cole, even though we believe Kendrick, I believe Kendrick is the greatest of all time. I could guarantee you he don't believe that. But believe me or not, this is why you can't put Kendrick Lamar as the greatest rapper of all time, in his opinion, because he hasn't done enough outside of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So let's keep it going.
Using the word iconic for a reason, because I'm about to give maybe my hottest take in a while to point out a paradox happening in hip hop. I'm not saying that there are no young rappers making good music right now in 2025 or in the past decade or so. In fact, I think that hip hop music as a whole is the best it's ever been, and this includes younger rappers. Now, I know this is something that people my age would disagree with, but that's because they're probably less locked in than I.
But bro, you know, this is what I mean by you dudes are very good with words, bro. Y'all talk on both sides of the fence. It's like, I'm not saying this, but I'm saying this. At the same time, I'm saying I'm not saying this. Like, come on, bro. Like, you really literally just said one thing, and now you're trying to switch it up to try to make it seem like that's not what you're saying. Like, come on, bro. Cut it out.
I am, and y'all know I'm not nearly as locked in as I used to be once upon a time. And part of that is because there's honestly too much good hip hop coming out these days. There's a new rap girl with a ratchet banger every 3 weeks. There's a new Griselda project every 2 months. There's an entire genre of female MCs making more purist boom bap adjacent music like Chica and Lil Sims and No Name. There's entire catalogs of good music from younger artists like Denzel Curry or Vince Staples that I don't get to spend enough time with. Because the reason is one of y'all are bringing to my attention someone like Mike, who I haven't listened to yet because I don't know when I'm going to do that, because I just heard the new McKinley Dixon project, and that is, to me, my favorite thing that's came out all year. And then I find out that dude has 5 other albums that I've never heard, and this is all while...
Even with you saying all that, you still would never put them in the class of Biggie, Pac, Jay, and Nas. You would never do that. So this is what I mean. Like, that sounds good. It's great that you do all that, but you'll never put them in the class because y'all gatekeep. You would never, ever, ever put them up there with them. That dude that you just mentioned, right? He could have 10 classic albums, but you would never say he's better than Biggie Smalls. You would never say he's better than Tupac because y'all gatekeep. And this is the reason why hip hop, in your words, is dying, because the gatekeepers of hip hop won't let these young hip hop artists thrive. Y'all won't. I remember me and my boy argued up and down about Kendrick Lamar years ago. And I said, after To Pimp a Butterfly, I said, this dude right here is going to be, if he's not right now, he's going to be the greatest rapper of all time. If he keeps going like this. And my boy was, oh no, I could never put him over. Would you ever say these somebody was better, a rock band was better than the Beatles? When he was going off. And I said, nah, I think Kendrick Lamar is gonna be better than Big Tupac. And he was like, that's crazy. Hell no, that's crazy. This is what I mean. And this was years ago. So I can imagine now, even though you're pointing out some of these albums that you consider good, I can imagine now how you look at some of these artists that is not good. You know what I'm saying? And to believe it or not, we're more swayed by artists that is not good than actually artists that are good, because we don't promote artists that's good enough. We don't.
Let God sort them out is still in heavy rotation. If you're my age and you're paying attention and you're honest, you have to admit there simply wasn't this much high quality stuff coming out in the 90s, because the way we consumed hip hop, the people that controlled how hip hop was released, would not have allowed it. But that's also part of the issue.
Wait, what? Bro, what are you talking about? What? You literally just said that we didn't have high quality music that came out like this in the 90s? Are you serious? You can't be serious, bro. You cannot be serious. Maybe he misspoke. Maybe he misspoke. There's no way in the world you telling me that in the 90s we didn't have high quality music like the Clip's new album. Maybe he misspoke. Maybe I'm the one that's tripping. I want to hear what he had to say again. Let me listen to that again.
Coming out in the 90s because the way we rotation. If you're my age and you're paying attention and you're honest, you have to admit there simply wasn't this much high quality stuff coming out in the 90s because the way we consumed hip hop, the people that controlled how hip hop was released would not have allowed it. But that's also part of the issue.
Bro, get the fuck out of here, yo. Oh my God, bro. Some of you dudes just say anything, bro. Some of y'all say anything. Bro, get the fuck out of here with that, bro. Are you kidding me, bro? Are you kidding me? You're telling me in the 90s, which you just cited, you cited 2 albums that came out in the 90s earlier in your joint. What? You're telling me that, bro, this is crazy work. You're telling me that in the 90s, there was no projects. Like, bro, I need to hear this again because I want to make sure I get what he's saying because I don't want to misquote the man. You know what I'm saying? I don't.
This is all while Let God Sort 'Em Out is still in heavy rotation. If you're my age and you're paying attention and you're honest, you have to admit there simply wasn't this much high quality stuff coming out in the 90s because the way we consumed hip hop, the people that controlled how hip hop was released would not have allowed it. But that's...
Yo, you can't be serious, bro. You can't be serious. Oh my God, bro. Get the fuck out of here with that, bro. Cut it out, bro. You telling me in the 90s? Oh my God, bro. I can't believe he just said that. That's crazy, bro.
Also part of the issue. Hip hop music is in a second renaissance right now, but hip hop culture is kind of trash. And there's a lot of reasons for this. Many of them have to do with the mediums through which we consume music. Streaming has changed the nature of engaging with the music and has also exacerbated how exploitative being a rapper is, as rappers make even less money off their music today than they did 30 years ago. Where they were getting at least pennies off each record, and now it's a percentage of a penny off each stream. And this has led to a big difference in how rappers might be motivated to make music. And you know what, I'm gonna be lazy and just like add a section from that vaulted video here because it's basically the same shit. But even going back to those stars, the Doechis, the Glorillaz, the Megs, etc., are any of them willing to put in the effort to sit and really build a project akin to Chromacopia or Let God Sort 'Em Out or maybe whatever Jid and Joey Badass are doing? To be fair, does the even culture demand that from them, or is this just an outdated old head concept? Is it old head of me? I'm asking this genuinely.
I kind of agree with what he's saying here. I do believe that some hip hop artists have based their whole existence around money. So I get what he's saying. I think that the Clips album is how would I say this? I think the Clips album is a testament of what happens when you got artists who really don't care about the money. You know what I'm saying? And I think that a lot of artists are put in this position and they kind of have to care about the money. But people like the Clips don't really have to care about the money. They really don't. You know what I'm saying? Because they did so much and they built their whole legacy around not caring about when it comes to hip hop money. You know what I'm saying? So I get what he's saying. Do they put enough effort into it? Because if they do, they're not really going to make so much. And that kind of pushes you to kind of make generic songs. So I get what he's saying right here. That's a good point.
To want more artists to sit down for a couple of years and really work on building a project, because I understand that that's not the optimal way to be a musician in 2025. Like, I don't know if any rapper has had a bigger 18 to 24 month period than Glorilla. I feel like ever since she popped up a couple of years ago, she's basically had a top 10, top 20 hit every 2 to 3 months, and somehow she came out with not one but 2 albums in 2024, or maybe they're mixtapes. I honestly don't know, and that's kind of my thing. it doesn't feel like it mattered that she came out with 2 albums in 1 year, and that the albums themselves didn't really make, like, as singular projects, they didn't make huge splashes, because she's still releasing big hits every couple of months. What would incentivize her to go away from that strategy and like let?
I mean, my issue that I run into with a lot of these guys like him is I feel like sometimes they try to integrate stuff that they hate within this whole thing. Most of their complaints is about how hip hop is how would I say this? How hip hop basically is being controlled and manipulated, right? But then they tout out how many hits these people have and how big their career is when they know that it's manufactured. You know what I'm saying? Like it's to me sometimes I feel like these guys be so intelligent, they talk so much that they confuse their pupils like college professors. They confuse the pupils by just constantly talking. And a lot of the stuff that they be saying be contradictory to whatever they're saying. You know what I'm saying?
Her wave calm down for a second and legitimately stay in the studio for a big album, hype it for months, make one big splash all at once, when she can basically just keep ruling TikTok and Instagram and whatever else with these great songs. And this is where my conversations with Company Man and Dom come in. What I began to ask is, where are the huge cultural shifting moments in the form of music coming from younger parts of hip hop? While there's still good music happening in hip hop, the stars don't seem to shine as bright. I looked at a list.
That's because y'all won't let them shine. All of y'all won't let them shine. You got to understand, hip hop has become something different. To these young people, it's not the same as us. It's the same thing. I'll give you a perfect example. It's the same thing when you got the 80s rappers versus the 90s rappers. You know what people were saying in the 80s when the 90s rappers came out? They're trash. These dudes are not good. They're commercial. They're sold out. These dudes are not. They're manufactured. They were saying all that. And then the 90s came. The 90s was the golden age. That became the greatest part of hip hop. And then after that, that carried on. In the 2000s, you know what they were saying? The 90s rappers were saying about all the 2000 rappers? They're trash. They're not good. These guys are overrated. It's the same thing. So as we go on, you're a person from the 90s, the early 90s, I can tell. You're from the early 90s. So if you're from the early 90s, your perception on what music is right now is not the same as what these younger artists are thinking. These younger artists have a different mind state about hip hop. They have morphed into something different in their head. We're still in love with the 90s. You know what I'm saying? We're still in love with the 90s. We won't let that genre, that era go. We still in love with the 90s. We love that Biggie Pop. That's why we love the Clips album so much, because it gives us that feeling of the 90s. But you have to understand, these artists nowadays, they don't have the same mind state as people in the 90s. They look at hip hop as a different type of genre than we do. But the reason why there's no breakout stars is because all of the old heads, y'all been gatekeeping hip hop for so long that y'all won't allow these artists to thrive. Y'all won't. Y'all, every time they come out, y'all say he's trash, she's trash, he's trash, he's trash. Instead of looking at it from the point of view of what is in the moment right now. This is what it is. Because guess what? In the early 90s, when the 2000 artists came out, guess what they were saying? He's trash, he's trash, he's trash. People were saying Kendrick is trash. People were saying Cole is trash. People were saying Drake is trash. People were saying they were trash. And guess what? They thrived. And now what happens after this? It's the same thing. So I understand exactly what he's saying, but at the same time, he's not admitting the reason why these artists can't thrive is because of them. Because of all of y'all gatekeepers who've been gatekeeping hip hop for so long that the 90s gatekeepers been gatekeeping hip hop forever. They think that the 90s dudes, they think they own hip hop, bro. They think they own the genre, how you supposed to rap, how you supposed to dress, everything you could think of. The 90s dudes think they own it all. Trust me when I tell you.
to the 20 hottest rappers in hip hop from 2022, and a bunch of the people on that list had already low-key fallen off, like Jack Harlow and Sexy Red. A few were people I didn't know anything about, like V's and Cash Cobain and Ken Carson. And you might say, well, that's because I'm not locked in, and to an extent, maybe, but if they were really huge stars, it would be impossible for me not to know who they are. There's a few bona fide.
Well, the reason why that is because you're not locked in. If you are a hip hop historian, in my opinion, you supposed to cover everything hip hop, not everything hip hop that you like. That's just and I'm not saying he's a hip hop historian. I'm just saying, but you can't say that these artists isn't big. The way music is consumed is a little bit different than the way we was. The average hip hop artist now gets way more streams and listens to the 90s rappers. So let's take somebody like Doechii, for example, right? Doechii is so many different outlets. Hip hop artists nowadays are much bigger than the artists from back in the day, right? They're much bigger, except for like we talking about the average artist, not Jay-Z and Nas. We talking about the average artist. They're much bigger. Doechii, back then we didn't have Spotify, we didn't have Apple Music and all that. It's different ways to consume music. These artists are much bigger now. Now, are they much bigger because it's manufactured? Yes. I mean, can you say that that's bigger? You can still say it's bigger. But for you to say that these artists ain't on your radar is because you are not tapped in to that part of the genre no more. You're still tapped into what you prefer. That's it.
Huge stars, but they were also mostly women like Meg, Glorilla, Lotto, Doja Cat, Doechii, and keep a pin in that because that's important. So aside from maybe Playboy Cardi and Lil Uzi Vert, I don't think anyone on that list has truly done anything to deeply impact hip hop culture on a large scale. There's good music, there's big hits, but there's no big galvanizing culture shifting moments. And as I showed with Glorilla.
Well, the reason why that is because y'all won't allow it. Y'all won't allow it to be a big. You won't allow it. You won't allow it. There's other artists, in my opinion, that I believe does do more for the culture, and I don't know if you're doing this by ranking, but there's other artists that I think did more for the culture than they did. But y'all won't allow these artists to thrive because y'all write hate pieces. Y'all write, oh, this person is trash. Y'all write these pieces that actually destroys these artists' credibility. It's just the way they create nowadays. Now, do I agree with it? No, but I have to acknowledge it. You know what I'm saying?
Gorilla in that previous segment, I don't think there's even a real reason or like force to make that a thing. As big of a year that Glorilla had, I don't think her presence right now compares to what Nicki Minaj did with Pink Friday 15 years ago. And I was old then, I wasn't locked in then, but I could tell from looking at the youth and from looking at the culture that something was happening when she came out, and it's not the same. People now are just.
Well, there could be a bunch of reasons why that's the case. Women hip hop artists are not the same as men. The way they're marketed and promoted is not the same. Also, too, when you have people like Nicki Minaj, she also is a gatekeeper. She also makes sure that a lot of female artists don't become as successful as her. She cuts people down. She does that. You know what I'm saying? So it could be a bunch of reasons why that is. But you got to understand, you right about that when it comes to Nicki. I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, there's much more to it than that. You know what I'm saying? There's much more to it than that because the way you see it, Nicki was a cultural shift. But then you have somebody like Doja Cat, who has multiple hits and all types of stuff, right? Not to say she's as big as Nicki, but still. It could be two things could be right at the same time. You could have Nicki being that, but you can also have, I'll put it to you like this. Nicki could be at the maximum, but now the maximum has become the minimum. There's plenty of other women who are probably just as recognizable as Nicki Minaj now. But you won't really know that because people tout Nicki as being who she is. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna watch a little more and then we're gonna get out of here because this is gonna be a long video.
Satisfied with small mini waves in different pockets of fandom, and that's not the worst thing because that also does mean we get better, more niche content, but it does mean that hip-hop is lacking star power, or at least young star power, which is concerning because that's what drives the medium and the culture forward into the future beyond when I'll have any influence. There's a lot of obvious aspects of why.
Well, and that goes right back to my point. Y'all gatekeep. That's the reason why these artists can't thrive. They won't never thrive because y'all gatekeep. But I'm gonna end it there. If y'all want to see the rest of it, I'll link it in the description. But I don't want to make it too long because this video is already too long. But shout out to that man. You know what I'm saying? He always has great takes. Sometimes I disagree with him. Sometimes I agree with him. But at the same time, you just gotta understand, man. A lot of y'all are gatekeep. Y'all gatekeep these artists, and this is the reason keep them out. They can never be the best. You would never say Lil Uzi Vert could be the best. You'll never say these artists would be Playboy Cardi could never be the greatest rapper of all time. It never happened. So a lot of these artists do feel like they're just rapping for nothing or just rapping for themselves because y'all won't give them the proper due that they deserve. You know what I'm saying? And in my opinion, y'all don't. So. But it is what it is. But thank y'all for joining me. I appreciate y'all. I'll see y'all on the next one, man. I'll be back in the studio real soon. So, all right, man. I'm out of here. See y'all. Peace. Bye.